I have student loans that total just over $1 million.
Hey friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we'll be talking about the student loan crisis. A lot of people are coming on TikTok saying that they're in big debts with the student loan and they're failing to pay back because their wages, they're low and they're not making enough money because also the rent houses have gone high, the prices of the rent is high and the groceries they can't just keep up with their paycheck. Okay, so yeah, and most of them they just realize that these loans were just a scam. And going to college, a lot of people are regretting because they're having degrees, they're having their masters, which can't even get them a job. So I've put the stitches together so that you watch. I'll be back to share my story.
I have student loans that total just over $1 million.
You're kidding me.
And no, sir.
What were you thinking?
Well, I wasn't thinking clearly. I've sat down and calculated my interest rates, and my interest is about $5,800 a month. So my fiance and we're trying to decide what's the best way to try to attack this.
When are you getting married?
April.
Okay. And what will you be making as an orthodontist?
About $250.
Okay. And what does she do and what will she be making?
We actually just opened up an office and she works in the office, so she's not taking any income out of the office.
Okay. This is such an extreme situation. Your income is extreme and your debt is extreme, that you have to be very, very careful to just act like you're a broke college student because you are a broke orthodontist.
Right.
And so that means you guys aren't going on vacations. Right. You're not buying a house. You're not leasing a new BMW. You're not going to a restaurant. You have $1 million. I can't even say it out loud. I can't breathe. $1 million in student loan debt. It gives me an anxiety attack, and it's not even my debt. But the horrible news is that ridiculous figure. The wonderful news is you have great income potential and a great income right now. So you cannot relax.
Right. So
you have to cut as deeply as you can cut.
Right.
And so be dialing your taxes in. I don't want you to get behind on taxes, but other than taxes and food and water and electricity, I really want everything else just going on student loan debt. The good news is you've got a great shovel and you have a great bright future with your income potential. And, that gets you out of this. It's not a reason to get into it, but it does get you out of it. It gives you hope for your...
So I went to college in 2016, and my freshman year, I had to take out a couple of loans so I could go to school, like most people do. After that, I worked multiple jobs, so I wouldn't have to take out any more loans. In fact, by my senior year, I paid for the whole thing by myself. So the loans I'm talking about are the loans from 2016. My mom, being the kind, wonderful, amazing human being that she is, took on one of those loans for me. Like, she's been paying it, and she has been paying it every single month since I took it out in 2016. Keep in mind, it is now 2023, so we're talking 7 years later. She told me as of a couple of weeks ago that she still owes the same amount of money on that loan as she did in 2016. Can't even make a dent in it. This is an adult woman with an extremely stable job and a house. Can you imagine what student loans are doing to people fresh out of college trying to find their way and struggling with the rising cost of housing? Student loans are way more predatory than you can understand at 18.
This is the part that pisses me off because I did not take out $80,000 in student loans, not even close to that. And so I'm over here, I have no issue. I have zero issue. This is a simulated situation, and so they're guesstimating what I should owe. But I don't have any issue with paying for all of my education. I will pay for it. I will pay for it over the next 10 to 20 years. I don't care. I will pay for it. I have an issue with paying $20,000 to $30,000 $30,000 of interest, or more than that. It's gonna be more than that because it might take me more than 10 years to pay this off. And so, like, genuinely, no issue whatsoever. I'll pay the 60 grand. I will pay it. I don't want to pay 30 more in interest. Like, I'm not, like, why do you get $30,000 for loaning me money? What are you doing that earns that? Like, there's no work being done that earns $30,000 over 10 years. Nobody's doing that job. So why do I have to pay that? Where does that?
I graduated with approximately $500,000 worth of student loan debt. These are my thoughts on the skyrocketing monthly payments. When I was in school, we actually had like a couple-hour seminar on student loan debt and how you can go around repaying it. It could either be through working for a nonprofit where you make way less money, but at the time they had promised that the loans would be forgiven after 10 years. The other way was to do income-based repayment. And during the seminar at my school, I raised a lot of concern. I told people around me, and I also asked the professors, like, hey, the administration changes every 4 years. How are you guaranteeing that this works for people in the future? And honestly, I did not believe it at all. I was very lucky that I was one of the few that was not duped, but with that much student loan, I knew I needed an action plan. I decided to just do my own plan, and so I decided to move to a state that had no state income tax, and I worked my butt off. So I would work around 12 to 16 hours, 5 days a week, and then on the weekends, I would go and substitute into other clinics and work there. So essentially, I was working 6 to 7 days a week, most weeks the first couple years that I graduated. And this is not ideal for everybody. But in my mind, I had a burdensome amount of debt that I knew I had to repay. And so I worked my butt off to get a lot of that paid down in the first 2 years alone. I had no work-life balance. It was actually very stressful and very horrible. But in my mind, I had taken out these student loans, and so I needed to repay them, and I didn't feel comfortable or confident relying on the government or anybody else to like save me from my own student loans. A lot of people are coerced into taking out high student loans without really understanding the implications of it, and that's something that needs to be addressed. Institutions also need to be held more accountable. Like, there is no reason why a school should be charging hundreds of thousands of dollars to get through. And
we have 68,000 people over the age of 62 who are still paying their crippling student loans. Student loan payments for federal loans are now due again. For 4 years, those federal loans were paused, but they're not paused anymore. It is estimated that millions of borrowers are going to have their credit hit this summer because they have not started making the payments again. In Georgia, we have 1.7 million student loan borrowers. Nationally, we have 47 million students who have borrowed. And many people feel like they will be paying their entire life.
I have currently about $430,000 in student loans.
Good Lord.
Yes, I was in medical school. I had failed 2 sets of boards after 3 years, and then was recently dismissed. And so about 80 of that, 80,000 is from undergrad, and then other courses later on to get into medical school, and the remainder is from medical school. Right now, I have the debt, but no degree to, that I was planning to use to actually be able to pay that back. So at this point, I don't really know what my options are to try to dig out of this.
You're right. That's a mess. I'm so sorry. That's scary.
It is.
Yeah. How did you get that far into it and then not be able to pass the boards?
I actually did fairly well during the first 2 years, but it was just, I think, being able to, I guess it was one thing to take an exam every few weeks or every month, but being able to retain that and then to recall it to the level of detail that I needed for the exams. I just couldn't put it all together at the end.
Is there any way you can re-engage and still have a shot at finishing?
Not without having to reapply and then go through the process all over again. And also have to take out more loans.
So yeah. What are your when did you flunk the last one?
That was this past spring, and so I was let go this summer.
Okay. So what since then? What has been your plan?
Well, I've basically just been getting by. I was able to find a job, first of all, as a substitute teacher, and I was hired as a high school biology teacher. But my loans are on deferment right now, and I have some forbearance to go. But at this point, I'm not sure any of the other career options. I've thought about, physician assistant, other programs like that, but it requires going into more debt. Because I'm not in a position where I could work and then pay as I go. Plus pay off the current, the loans I've got now too.
Yeah. So what would it take to be a PA from where you are?
I would have to take about another year of classes. I would have to take some other entrance classes, and then 2.5 years for the program itself.
Wow.
And then and that's probably at least another $60,000 to $70,000 in tuition and living expenses.
What about nursing?
It's my undergraduate degree was in biology, and then I did pre-med.
And so none of the med school work you've done applies to anything else.
No, none of it. I have the debt, but none of the courses, none of it actually I can transfer to anything.
Wow. Well, I mean, the only thing I know to tell you is to try to assess some kind of a career, and that's what I'm poking at here. I don't know enough about that world to try to help you, but we obviously need to get to the point that we're making some good money to begin to pay this through, right? And so I want to lead you towards something that's 6 figures to try to plow through this with, and or get on maybe with some kind of a hospital type of a company that would do some student loan pay for you as part of your signing bonus, that kind of a thing. Obviously, you're not going to be doing that as an MD, but the PA idea is a good idea, something around the biology or medical field, but I want to move you well beyond high school biology teacher to pay off $430,000 in debt, right?
Exactly. And the other issue, I mean, right now, I'm 34 years old, and so I have all this debt and I have an emergency fund, but no retirement savings, nothing at all. So I don't know.
Well, I'm not worried about that until we address your income. Okay. We got to address your career track, which gets you to your income, which solves the debt problem and then solves the retirement problem. Well, I'm not in a panic about that today. I mean, if you were 66, I might be, but you're not. You got time to work through that. You've just got to reset here and land on your feet from a career standpoint and find something that you can use this biology.
That's the video, guys. I'm just here also to share my true sense, like what I think about today's video. The student loan crisis. In 2025, the crisis feels more personal than ever before. It's not just a fresh graduate who are affected. People in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s are still paying off loans they took out decades ago. Parents who co-signed for their children are also drowning into debt, unable to retire or even make ends meet. The American dream of going to college to secure a better future has turned into a financial nightmare for many. Degrees that were once promised upward mobility are now symbols of lifelong debt, especially for those who pursued careers in public services. Education or the arts feel that offer purpose but rarely pay enough to keep up with the loan payment. The government response to this growing crisis has become inconsistent. Some efforts at loan forgiveness has been implemented, but they are often come with strict eligibility requirements, confusing paperwork, and long wait times. Many borrowers report being stuck into limbo, unsure if they ever see forgiveness. Meanwhile, interest continues to pile up. There are also a lack of transparency in how loan services operate, with many accused of misleading borrowers, misapplying payments, or pushing them into forbearance instead of more sustainable repayment plans. The lack of accountability has further eroded public trust in the system. What's even more troubling is how this crisis is going up affect a lot of communities. Black and Hispanic borrowers in particular tend to take out more loans and struggle more with repayment. First generation college students who entered higher education without a financial safety net or guidance often fell into the deepest debt trap. The promise of education as a great equalizer feels horror when the path to the degree is paved with financial ruin. The long term impact of this is devastating, creating an event wider wealth gap and perpetuating cycles of poverty. The psychological toll cannot be ignored either. Many borrowers report feeling anxious, depressed, and hopeless about their financial futures. The pressure to keep up with the payment often forces people to delay life milestone, buying a home, getting married, start a family, or even pursuing careers, opportunities that would fulfill them to pay less. Student debt has essentially become a form of modern day induce, okay, churning people to jobs they hate or cities they can't afford to live, all the sake of meeting monthly payment. There's also the broader economy impact. When young people are saddened with debt, they lessly likely to invest, start a business, or contribute to economic growth in other meaningful ways. The housing market suffers. Small business struggles to find support and innovation slow down. Student loan debt doesn't just affect individual borrowers, it affects the entire economy. By limiting mobility and suppressing customer spending, this crisis hold back national progress ways that are both visible and invisible. One of the most frustrating aspects of student loan crisis is the lack of real alternatives. The cost of college has gone up for far impacting inflation and wages growth. Yet higher education remains positioned as requirement for success. Trade schools and alternative education still are and underfunded and they're still stigmatized. Until we are in this role of college in our society and address the cost of structure head on, we will continue to send young people into a broken system that benefit institutions more than students. Online education was once seen as a potential solution, promising cheaper, more accessible learning, but in practice, many online degrees have not delivered on that promise. There is also limited recognition by employers, and the same high school tuitions rate have made them less effective than hopeful. Meanwhile, universities continue to invest in regularly facilities and administrative broad while passing those costs on to students. The priorities are clear and they're not focused on affordability or access. In 2025, there's a growing movement of young people choosing to skip college entirely or seek education outside traditional institutions. There is a sense of delusionment in the air. Social media is filled with stories of people who dropped out, learned tech skills on their own, and now make six figures without a degree. Others are advocating for complete student loan forgiveness, arguing the education should be a public good, not a long life financial burden. These voices are growing louder, and the arguments are starting to influence public disclosure and their policy dates or debates. Yet there are still those who argue that borrowers signed up for the loans and should be responsible for paying them back. This view often ignores the predatory practices of loan savers, the misleading information many students receive when signing their loan agreement, and the structure issues that made borrowing unavoidable in the first place. It also fails to acknowledge the way the system was rigged to benefit leaders and institutions while students bore all the risk. Looking forward, what's clear is that something has to change, whether through widespread forgiveness, reforming the course of structure of education, or building stronger support for alternative career paths. The current system is unsustainable. We can't continue to allow a generation to be crushed under the weight of promise that education will be the ticket to better life. The student loan crisis is not just a financial issue, it's a moral one. And in 2025, it's past time for our leaders to treat it with urgency it deserves. If you're watching this video and you're struggling with student debt, or you're not alone, millions are in the same boat and your frustration is valid.